I gave my cheating wife her retirement gift, and she lost everything. The vault door clicks, and the room swallows the sound. I'm holding 2 keys and a velvet pouch with a sealed gift inside. She's late because she's with him, and my appointment ends in 12 minutes. The transfer paperwork is already queued. One signature decides who walks out with a future. If I wait, she drains me. If I act, she loses what she thought she'd hidden. The banker asks, "Are you sure?" I say, "She wasn't." I place the pouch on the table, and my hand doesn't shake. First red flag? A 3 a.m. deposit labeled bonus. The memo line didn't match her employer. Marriage hairline cracks. Our house had a ritual hum. Coffee set the night before, her shoes by the door, my keys on the hook. We were tidy, considerate, synchronized, if you didn't listen too closely. Lately, the hum had a skip. Her late meetings multiplied. The phone learned to live face down. There was a new perfume that didn't fit winter. She'd kiss my cheek and say, "Don't wait up." I'd nod and say, "Okay," because at first that felt like trust. Then one morning, I poured coffee, and a scent followed her into the kitchen. Not the expensive floral I'd given her, something sharper, like citrus left in a hot car. She caught me noticing and laughed too quickly. Test her from work. She doesn't work in fragrance. The first lie wore numbers. A random 3 a.m. deposit hit her checking account, 5 figures. She called it a bonus. I know her company's cadence. Bonuses roll in March and November, never Tuesdays at 3:07 a.m. The amount didn't match her pay grade. I asked, casual, "Big bonus?" She sipped and said, "We're lucky this year." We? Her firm had just missed targets. I tested a small boundary. "Let me see the statement. I should move some into savings." She froze a beat too long, then smiled like a teacher forgiving a child. "Babe, why don't you trust me?" The guilt landed heavy, even as the answer dodged. I backed off outwardly and started a private log. Dates, times, merchant names, small changes you only see when you chart them. The microtel came on a Wednesday. I called her to ask if she wanted dinner, and the call connected to nothing. A butt dial texture of fabric and murmur. Her passcode changed that night. "It made us," she said. My company hadn't. Hers hadn't either. I checked their policy site without logging in. Her calendar sprouted conference travel to a city her company had no presence in. She said keynote. Their press page said nothing. I didn't accuse. Not yet. I wrote down the flight times and the hotel name she dropped like a lure. I wrote down my own pulse. I tried to reset our routine. Let's do a Friday rule. No phones at dinner. She agreed like a person signing a petition on a sidewalk. Friday came. Her screen lit up, face down, buzzing. She shifted it under a napkin. "Mom," she said, and excused herself. The call lasted 12 minutes. When she came back, she was quiet, soft, apologetic. She touched my hand. "You've been distant." That was new. My distance used as a reason for hers. I smiled and said, "I'm here." Money threads were the ones I couldn't let go. Another odd charge. A conference center that was in fact a boutique hotel we'd once joked was too romantic for work. A gift shop nearby hit her card for a silk scarf she never wore at home. Her Lyft receipts started landing later, with drop-offs at the alley behind a jewelry district that closes at 6. She came home at 8 with empty hands. I asked about retirement. Simple. "We should talk goals," I said. "Maybe consolidate our accounts, make the tax stuff easy." She lit up with the exact amount of enthusiasm that suggests deflection. "Totally. We should make a spreadsheet." No spreadsheet emerged. A week later, the first hard data point landed in our mailbox like a bird flying into a window. Bank error. A sealed envelope addressed to her, but the return address was our bank's IRA department. Inside, a deposit confirmation into her personal IRA, 5 figures. Memo. MSP Holdings. Not her company. Not a vendor I recognized. I didn't open her mail again after that. I didn't need to. The slip had slipped. The pattern started to glow. That night, I set my phone on the counter near the microwave while she plated takeout. Her phone pinged. In the reflection, a banner I wasn't meant to see. MSP confirmed. She flipped the phone, smiled at me, asked about my day, and served me extra rice like love could be salted over the edges of bookkeeping. I nodded, ate, and added a line to the log. Then I spoke one sentence aloud to the empty kitchen later, practicing. "When you're ready to retire, I have a gift." Inciting incident, the deposit slip and the vendor. I held that IRA deposit slip like it might bruise. The bank logo, her account number, the credit, 5 figures, and the memo line. MSP Holdings. I said the name out loud, rolling it around for meaning, and got nothing but the taste of bleach. I didn't open. More of her mail. I didn't need to. I called the bank from my office, neutral voice. Co-owner on our joint accounts. The kind of husband who asks about consolidating. We're reviewing our retirement picture, I said. Can you confirm linked accounts for beneficiary overlaps? The rep was cheerful and careful. She listed what she could. Our joint CD, my IRA, her IRA. She has a self-directed IRA with an alternative asset custodian linked for reporting, the rep added, like she was reading a grocery item. Alternative assets, I repeated. Like what? Could be real estate, notes, private placements, precious metals, she said. We don't see positions, just custodian of record. Self-directed IRA, a loophole that wears a suit. I thanked her, hung up, and typed MSP Holdings into a search bar. The first result was a state registry. Mailing address, a strip mall P.O. box, registered agent, an office suite company. No website, no pitch deck, just corporate lint. I mapped the agent's name. It tied to a local metals dealer 2 neighborhoods over, the one with velvet trays and a buzzer on the door, the one that closes at 6. The dealer's invoices weren't on her laptop. They were in her cloud, under a folder called Taxes, a place no one snoops because taxes make you tired. File names were bland. IMG, under a 9th 4th 23 BG, scan under a 4.pdf. Her scrub missed the originals. The backup still carried MSP dealer invoice sept.pdf. The invoice listed 1-ounce bars, premiums thick enough to choke on, delivery to approved depository. The custodian code matched a vault we'd used for our passports the year we took our first international trip. I layered it with her schedule. Coaching nights every other Thursday. Lift receipts to an alley behind the dealer after closing. I checked her card statements. A boutique wine shop nearby, same bottle, same nights, paired with a conference center charge that was a boutique hotel with a fireplace in every room. Their lobby had a piano. We'd listened to it once and said we'd come back. She did. The pattern wasn't just infidelity. It was asset relocation disguised as romance and retirement savvy. Metals inside a self-directed IRA are safe, inflation-proof, and hard to track. Perfect for a person who wants a slice of marital earnings tucked where Discovery has to work for it. MSP Holdings wasn't her employer, but it looked enough like one on a casual glance. And those deposits hit at 3 a.m., batch windows that hide in nightly processing. I called the depository we'd used years ago as a member, not a husband. I'm considering reopening a box, I said. Remind me about chain of custody? The attendant gave me the script. Dual authentication, contents audits by appointment, weight logs if you request them, and custodian keys held off-site. We don't discuss other clients, he added. Good. I didn't want gossip. I wanted process. Across the street, a week later, I watched her from my car. She ducked into the dealer at 6:12, buzzer sound swallowed by traffic. She came out at 6:39, lighter, smiling, carrying nothing. The smile wasn't joy. It was the relief of a finished chore. She sent me a text, stock photo latte, captioned running late. The foam art was a tulip I'd seen a dozen times on a coffee shop's Instagram in another city. I didn't reply. In the kitchen that night, she tossed her jacket like she'd just saved us money. Market's scary, she said, unprompted. We should think about diversifying. Agreed, I said, and kept my eyes on the pan. Together. I mapped the pipeline front to back. MSP deposits into her personal checking, transfers into her self-directed IRA, purchase orders to the dealer, metals transferred to an approved depository. On paper, it was legal if the money was separate. It wasn't. It was salary, bonuses, the overtime she insisted didn't exist, all within the marriage. Hidden is a moral word. I needed legal words. Commingled, concealment, dissipation. I didn't hack. I didn't guess. I pulled what was in plain sight or handed to me, and I copied nothing I didn't have access to. I took photos of mailers addressed to account holder with the corners torn by machines. I wrote dates and exact phrasing. I learned the dealer's closing rhythm. I learned the custodian's hold music. I learned that the vault we'd chosen back when we still shared passcodes was on her route again. A few nights later, she offered movie night. I offered budgeting. Let's plan our retirement, I said, and she kissed my cheek like a prize. I marked that kiss too. It fell on the same evening and MSP credit posted at 3:04 a.m. By then, the motive had shifted in me. Not just who she loved in hotel light, but where our money slept and who held the keys. First try, direct talk, that backfires. I started soft, like couples do when they still want the story to be salvageable. Sunday eggs, sun through blinds, her hair in a knot. We should talk retirement, I said. What do you want our 70s to look like? She smiled the way people smile when they think they're being graded. Beach, books, you and me not worrying. Her hand slid over mine, warm, practiced. We could hit that if we simplify, I said. Roll things together, 1 map instead of 5. She brightened too fast. Yes, we should totally consolidate. You know, like those TikTok finance people say. She laughed at herself, and at me, and at a phantom internet guru we could both safely mock. Diversify, but not like gold bars in the freezer, she said, eyes on the pan. Metals can be smart inside a plan, I said, neutral. Custodian, depository, all that. She flicked the burner off. Babe, please. TikTok nonsense. People get scammed. She kissed my temple and moved past me. It was affectionate and evasive at the same time, like a magician's offhand pat before a reveal. That afternoon, I tried being specific. What if we move part of ours into a joint rollover? Cleaner taxes, fewer logins. You hate logins. She went gentle. Penalties, timing, all that. We should wait. The market's twitchy. Her voice did the soothing thing she uses on difficult clients. I'll book time with HR next week. Okay, I said, like I believed there was an HR that handled self-directed anything. That night, she set out wine and candles, a reset. We haven't connected, she said, walking fingers across my arm. I miss you when you're spreadsheeting. I'm just trying to make sure we're good, I said. Together. She nodded and then tipped the balance. Sometimes you feel controlling. She let it land and then reached to catch it. Not in a bad way, just intense. Her eyes glossed, not crying yet, the promise of crying if it would steer the room. I'm asking for transparency, I said. It's not control to know what we own. She looked at the table. I'm doing the best I can. Work is frying me. Can we not interrogate dinner? We ate. We tried a show. Her phone faced down the coffee table like it needed a nap. During a quiet scene, it vibrated twice. She didn't twitch. Third buzz, she exhaled. Mom's been anxious, she said, picking it up, eyes not on me. I should call her back. Go ahead, I said. She stood, moved toward the kitchen, and lifted the phone. The glass met the microwave door at the perfect angle. The reflection showed the banner I wasn't supposed to read. MSP confirmed. She swiped it away in the reflection, then put the phone to her ear and softened her voice into daughter mode. Hi, Mom. When she returned, she was the version of herself I fell for. Soft, curious, funny. She curled against me and traced circles on my palm. We're okay, right? She asked. I said yes, because I wanted the sentence to be true in that room. Over the next days, I floated practical moves. Tuesday, we could go to the bank, sign a rollover. She nodded and kissed me instead of answering. Thursday, I tried. I'll bring the statements. Thursday's coaching night, she said, and kissed me again. I'll be late. I didn't push. I adjusted the angle. You know how my IRA's with a custodian that's decent but slow? I said. I found a better one. If we mirror the setup, it'll be easier. She smiled like I had asked her to split dessert. Baby, that's your world, she said, tapping my forehead. Spreadsheets and forms. I trust you. I want you to be in the room. I am, she said, and pressed her palm to my chest. Right here. When seduction didn't quiet the questions, she tried contrition. Saturday morning, she brought coffee to bed. I could have looped you in sooner, she said, work-wise. Her voice softened. You're my person. Then show me, I said. One afternoon, we pull everything up and make a plan. She nodded, eyes big. Yes, after this quarter. It's chaos. I let it go on the surface because I needed the wave to crest. On Monday, I booked a meeting at our bank to discuss rollover options. Tuesday night, I slid the email across the counter. 10 a.m., Friday. They'll prep the paperwork. She scanned the subject line and set the phone down with a tiny click. I have a client Friday at 9:30 that could spill. Push it? We'll miss the window. Babe, she said, voice low, almost a whisper. Do you trust me? There it was again, the word she used like a trap. I didn't step in. I'm trying to build something that doesn't require trust to function. Her eyes flashed. That's a horrible way to talk about a marriage. It's a good way to talk about accounts. The air thinned. She stood, wrapped her arms around herself. I feel judged. I feel excluded. I kept my voice even. Let's fix it. She came close, set her chin on my shoulder. Let's just be us tonight, she said, soft. No money. I want you. I wanted her too. That was the problem. I let the night blur on purpose, filed the choice under reconnaissance. Even tenderness can be data. The next morning, I made eggs again and tried one more direct ask. Pull up your IRA dashboard, I said, casual. I'll show you mine. She smiled like I'd told. A dirty joke. Later. I'm late. Her phone buzzed. She tucked it into her bag. Love you, she said. I watched the door close and finally accepted the answer she wouldn't say out loud. Direct talk had turned into smoke. Reassurance, then diversion, then guilt, then skin. Every tactic worked except the truth, so I pivoted. If her language was misdirection, mine would be documentation. If she moved in shadows, I'd build lamps. If talking gave me gloss, I'd go quiet and count. Rising action. Mapping the money. I built a wall of dates before I built a plan. MSP credits at 3:04 a.m., 3:07 a.m., 2:59 a.m., batch windows that rhyme. Dealer pickups every other Thursday, timestamps just after closing. Her Lyft receipts didn't say jewelry district. They said cross streets and a back alley that dead ends behind a metal door with a nondescript buzzer. I plotted pins on a map until the pattern looked like a heartbeat. Parallel spins told the story she didn't. Conference center charges that were actually a boutique hotel with a pianist who only plays Thursdays. A wine shop 2 doors down, same Malbec, 2 glasses worth missing whenever she came home late and unhungry. A gift boutique receipt for a silk scarf I never saw, and a set of cufflinks I never wore. The cufflinks told me there was a hymn, not just a habit. I cross-checked her boss's calendar, which she once shared with me to brag about a promotion. The public blocks marked off-site leadership mirrored her coaching nights. He was in Chicago when the pianist played our city's lobby. If I sounded jealous in my head, I wrote timeline alignment instead. Precision keeps you from drowning. I studied self-directed IRAs until my eyes burned. Custodians versus administrators. Prohibited transactions. What qualifies as IRA-eligible metals? The language makes you sleepy on purpose. I opened my own self-directed IRA, funded it clean, and chose a custodian with actual humans on the phone. I asked every question twice. Where do the metals live? Who holds the key? How do you record chain of custody? The banker friend I trust translated. The custodian says yes or no. The depository holds the bars. Your access is a key and a log. The log doesn't lie. People get sold on the idea their gold is safe because it's heavy, he said over lunch. It's the paperwork that's heavy. That's what counts. The depository he mentioned, the one with the vault we used once for passports, sat like muscle memory in my brain. We'd rented a box there when we were still a team. I called and acted like a man who loves process. If I request weight logs, do you record by bar and serial? The attendant said yes with an appointment. Can an audit compare ledger totals to actual contents? Yes. If I add a co-renter, does each access get timestamped? Yes, both key and ID. Good, that was my scoreboard. I seeded the path to a gift. Anniversary coming. Money on the table. She always liked ceremonies around milestones. I sketched a joint asset schedule on paper. My retirement, her retirement, the house equity, the emergency fund. I left a space labeled Metals Depository, blank on purpose. Blankness invites confession. If she filled it, we had a different story. If she didn't, the blank would be evidence. I started buying knowledge I could use. I purchased a sealed IRA-eligible bar through my new custodian and logged its serial number in 3 places: the custodian's purchase sheet, my notebook, and an email to myself. Then I sourced a dummy, tungsten cord, weight perfect, dressed in gold plating and plausible stamps. Detection-proof for amateurs, obvious under ultrasound. I didn't need to fool a refinery. I only needed a mirror she would believe for long enough. I drafted a spousal waiver letter that sounded like tax boredom. Standard consent to roll assets for efficiency, acknowledgement of separate custodians, agreement to depository protocols. It was true in every word and lethal in arrangement. She has a habit of signing anything that reads like HR. While the paperwork simmered, I tightened the map. I matched her Lyft trips with the dealer's posted holiday closures and found one night she circled the block and left. No buzzer, no pickup. Right when the dealer was dark. That meant she wasn't just browsing. She was picking up orders. I watched the alley camera reflections in shop windows, catching a glint of her bracelet, the one I'd bought for our 5th anniversary. That hurt more than I expected. I added the hurt to the log anyway. Clean records include the parts that make you shake. I checked the depository's tenant list the way anyone can, by reading the shared notary calendar taped to the front desk window. Names redacted, firm names visible. Her custodian's name appeared on Thursdays twice in a month. I didn't need to connect it to her. The pattern already had. Across town, unaware I was 3 steps ahead, she texted me a meme about gold bugs. I sent back a thumbs up and set a meeting at the depository for our diversification talk. I framed it as romance. Let's put something solid in the vault, I wrote. A tradition. She replied with a heart. Greed is a strong solvent. It stripped away her caution faster than my questions ever did. I wasn't just hunting her stash. I was building mine where every gram could be traced. I rolled a slice of my retirement into metals through my custodian, shipped directly to the depository, recorded by serial and weight. Control moved without noise. No shared lines of credit were exposed. No joint card stayed open. I quietly removed her authorized access to my personal cards and froze the joint credit line with the courtesy notice the bank would mail to both of us. Paper trails that say, I acted, I notified, I didn't hide. Every 30 seconds, I asked myself if I was escalating or just stewing. Then I added one more layer, a request to the custodian for transaction verification on anything labeled MSP. I didn't accuse, I asked for routine reconciliation. Bureaucracy moves like lava, slow and unstoppable. If there was smoke, they'd see it and log it. By the time the anniversary invitation hit her inbox, the pipeline was mapped. Money to MSP, MSP to metals, metals to depository, and me waiting at the end of the tunnel with a velvet pouch and a ledger that wouldn't blink. The gift setup, Chekhov's lockbox. Our anniversary crept up like a test I knew the answers to. I cooked, I cleaned, I set out the good plates. Then I set the stage. You said diversify, I told her over dessert. Let's do it for real, together. I slid a calendar invite across the table like a ring box. High security depository, joint appointment. A tradition, I said. We put something solid away, then dinner. She lit up. Not romance, anticipation. Finally, she said, you're speaking my language. I called the vault first, asked for all the theater. Contents audit available, yes. Bar by bar waits on request, yes. Notary booked, yes. I paid for the private room because rituals deserve velvet. Then I built the prop. 2 keys in a velvet pouch, hers and mine. Same brass, different secrets. Hers opened the box. Mine held the code the attendants used to pull the weight log. I placed the sealed, IRA-eligible bar inside, serial inked, paperwork crisp. Next to it, the dummy bar. Tungsten heart, gold skin, good enough to fool anyone who wants to be fooled. I logged both serials in my notebook, but only one in the official schedule. The schedule became our script. I typed up a clean asset list for the meeting. House, cash, my rolled IRA positions, the new bar's serial number. One neat line read, Joint Depository Holdings, see attached ledger. The ledger showed everything but her MSP pathway. Blank space where her secrets should live. Blank space is louder than numbers if you let silence do its job. I wrapped the legal in boring paper. The spousal waiver letter read like oatmeal. Consent to roll qualified assets. Acknowledgement of custodian rules. Agreement not to encumber or pledge depository contents without mutual consent. Every word ordinary. Every sentence a hinge. She signed 100 forms like it. She'd signed this one before the wine warmed. We took a walk that Sunday, the kind couples post about. She threaded her arm through mine. It means a lot, she said. You taking retirement seriously. I nodded. It means a lot you'll sit with me while I do. She kissed my shoulder. I love gifts that last. In my pocket, the pouch sat quiet. I let the future we weren't going to have breathe a little longer and kept pace with her. At home, I ran a micro drill. I timed the drive. I scanned the lobby routes. I checked where the cameras pointed and where they didn't. I practiced the presentation. Open pouch, reveal bar, toast to our future, slide waiver in the stack between custodian forms and depository rules. I built it like a heist without a crime, just gravity, paper, and time. The banker friend took a look at my stack and whistled. She'll sign these in under a minute, he said. They look like tax prep. I smiled without humor. That's the point. He tapped the line about mutual consent. This is the lock. I tapped the pouch. This is the key she'll want. I still needed the glue that would make the moment stick. Proof that didn't smell like hacking. I added one last page to the folder. A joint asset schedule with a footnote. Additions to be declared at appointment. Innocent phrasing that invites confession, forces omission, or sets perjury. All 3 outcomes worked. She started preening for the meeting like people do when they're stepping on stage. New blazer, the perfume I didn't recognize anymore, the necklace she wears when she wants to be believed. I'm excited, she said. It feels grown up. I kept my face soft. It is. On the morning of, I tucked the pouch in my inside pocket and the dummy in the outer one with a folded napkin for noise control. I kissed her at the door and tasted citrus and careful lies. We drove in silence that wasn't hostile, just full. She tapped her phone twice at red lights, probably checking a thread that had held her up before. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. At the vault, we signed in, surrendered IDs, and followed the attendant down the carpeted corridor where air has the weight of money. Private room, stainless table. The soundproof door closed like a sentence ending. I set the pouch between us and watched her pupils widen. Happy anniversary, I said, to the future. She grinned, hungry and sweet. "Open it," she said. "In a minute," I said, sliding the folder closer. "Let's sign the boring stuff first so we can enjoy the shiny thing without thinking about taxes." She laughed, relieved. "God, you're you." She took the pen. I placed the waiver midway down the stack, the way a magician plants a card where the hand already wants to go. She didn't read. She never reads. Her pen moved in smooth loops. "Initial here?" she asked, and I nodded. She initialed by the clause that would keep our joint box immovable without both of us. She signed the acknowledgement that depository contents are governed by the ledger we filed today. She dated the spousal consent that confirmed we're both informed. It took 40 seconds. I lifted the pouch lid and showed her the sealed bar. She inhaled. Wow. Her fingers hovered like priests. I set it on the table, let her feel the weight through the plastic. "There's more," I said, and set down the second bar like a flourish. Same heft, same sheen. "A matched pair," I said. "Symbolic." Her smile bloomed. She didn't ask why one serial appeared in the ledger and one didn't. She didn't ask anything at all. Greed makes questions small. Across the table, the attendant cleared his throat. "Ready for your contents audit?" he asked. "We can log weights against your ledger." I nodded. "We are." I glanced at her. She nodded too, eyes on the bars, already counting futures that didn't belong to her anymore. Proof hunt. Evidence without illegality. I drew a hard line. No hacking, no lockpicks, no gotchas. I couldn't defend in a courtroom. Only what lived in the open, what she handed me, what any auditor could collect with a clipboard and a patient face. That rule kept me honest and, more importantly, made the story admissible. The car gave me the first breadcrumb without asking. Her SUV's navigation history remembered everywhere she told it to go. Top of the list, Oaks. Not a hotel. A furnished rental with month-to-month terms, tucked behind a dentist's office and a maple tree. I tapped it, and the screen showed the route she'd driven so often the system suggested it on weekday afternoons. I wrote down the address. I didn't touch the screen again. Our doorbell camera is a narcissist. It reflects more than it records. One evening, she came home with a neatly folded overnight bag and takeout for two from a place that doesn't put utensils in single orders. In the door's black glass, I saw her reflection and the handle of a bag with a boutique logo from the rentals block. I saved the clip to my account, the account we both share, with a note, 2 portions Tuesday. I booked the same rental the following week under my name. I told the host we needed a quiet spot to work. He confirmed availability and, without prompting, mentioned they had repeat business from a corporate guest who paid in cash sometimes. He said it with the tone of a person who loves predictable money. I kept my face neutral and asked about parking. Receipts started singing if you held them to the light. The same bottle of Malbec from the shop near the rental appeared on her personal card and again on a corporate card 2 minutes apart. 2 charges, 2 cards, 1 cashier ID. The corporate one ran to a cost center labeled Client Hospitality. I printed both statements, circled the timestamps, and drew a line that any forensic accountant would see without squinting. I didn't rummage through her phone. I waited for what she put on the counter. She handed me her keys and wallet one night while she changed upstairs. The Lyft ride detail was still open. Driver name, drop-off cross streets, time. I didn't screenshot. I didn't forward. I took a pen from the cup and copied the intersections into my notebook. Ink makes a different kind of truth. I made my own truth stronger with a journal that could testify for me. Each night I emailed myself a summary, date, observations, exact phrases, links to public things like the dealer's hours page and the rental listing. The emails created a time-stamped chain of custody I couldn't edit without leaving fingerprints. I kept the tone dry. Observed, MSP deposit at 3:04 a.m. Bank statement mailed to residents. Did not open. It read like a scientist, not a spouse. Across town, Oaks smelled like lemon cleaner and borrowed linen when I walked in. I took no photos. I noticed the box of herbal tea she likes and the corkscrew we own in Twin, and I wrote those down in the journal later. In the guest book, a hand I recognized had printed Great Wi-Fi 3 weeks earlier. I didn't touch the page. On our shared iPad, which sits on the coffee table and begs to be used for recipes, her cloud photo stream populated with a reflection of a lobby piano, same one I'd noted on Thursdays. No faces, just the piano, the glass, the hint of a blazer sleeve I didn't own. I screen recorded the slideshow, not the photos, capturing the metadata timestamp the device floats in the corner. It was the tablet we both used. It recorded me pressing play. That mattered. I needed one more thread to knot the financial with the personal without stepping over a line. I walked into the metals dealer during business hours and asked about IRA-eligible bars like any cautious investor. The clerk gave me the spiel about custodians and markups and depositories. On the counter sat a stack of brochures stamped with the same registered agent name I'd found tied to MSP Holdings. I took a brochure, thanked him, and left. On the back, someone had helpfully printed their Thursday late pickup policy. I highlighted it at home and slid it into my file. I didn't try to follow her into the vault. I used the vault's love of documentation. I scheduled a contents audit for our joint box and requested that a weight log be printed and sealed by a notary that day. The attendant asked if I wanted the serials included. I said yes, knowing which serial would appear and which wouldn't. Process is a better witness than anger. Her corporate expense report portal has a public-facing FAQ that lists allowable categories. Conference center isn't one for meals and incidentals. It's a venue charge. Her receipt labeled as conference center covered a boutique hotel bar tab with 2 appetizers and a dessert we never order. I saved the FAQ page, not her account. Policy versus practice, printed in black and white. Every 30 seconds I checked myself. Was I building a case or feeding a grudge? Each time, the evidence nudged me forward. The story wasn't a melodrama. It was a ledger. She had funneled marital earnings into a personal IRA via a shell that smelled like a cellar, then converted them into metal that slept behind a door that logs each breath. With the journal stacked and the legal clean, I moved assets I was allowed to move. My rollover complete, my depository entry recorded, my beneficiaries updated. What I did next would be reversible only by both signatures, not just mine, and would sit well with any judge who asked me to explain my sequence. The trap wasn't the tungsten bar. The trap was the paper around it, folded neat, filed right, and quiet enough to let her walk into it on her own. The bank maneuver, paper cuts that bleed. I took a Wednesday off like it was a doctor's appointment and sat across from my IRA custodian with a stack that sounded boring and bled quietly. In-kind transfer, I said. Bars and cash equivalents, same titling, new trustee. He nodded, verified identity twice, and read the script to the regulator's love. We initiated the transfer. My assets stood up, walked across the street on paper, and sat down where only my key worked. No alarms, just forms. On my way out, I called the bank. Freeze the joint line of credit, I said. Prevent new draws. Polite hold music, then confirmation. Also remove the authorized user from my personal cards. They read back her name, removed it, and emailed the notice to both of us. I didn't hide it. Sunlight keeps lawyers calm. I updated beneficiaries that afternoon. The living trust we drafted when we still believed in small funerals got refreshed. I amended the living will to name my sister as health proxy. That one made me swallow hard. I clicked save anyway. The point wasn't punishment, it was triage. At the depository, I met my custodian's rep and completed the rollover of my assets into the metal sleeve that would sleep exactly where the log could see them. Serial numbers matched purchase sheets. The attendant weighed the new arrivals, stamped the ledger, and slid me a copy with the notary seal embossing the page like a bruise. Control shifted with a sigh, not a bang. Then I lit the fuse I needed others to notice. I sent the custodian a routine request. Please verify and reconcile recent transactions attributed to MSP credits interacting with account XYZ. No accusations, no adjectives. A micro audit by another name. Bureaucracy loves neutral verbs. Their acknowledgement came back with a ticket number and the promise of review. If MSP smelled like a dealer in a shell, the airflow would carry it into their vents. I scheduled the gift appointment with the banker who handles depository customers like us. Professional smile, neutral tie, a notary at elbow. We'll prepare standard consent forms and a contents audit, he said. Anything else? A spousal waiver, I said, for rollover efficiency. He shrugged at the phrase like it was oat milk. He slotted it into the packet. The timing mattered. I needed one more pass over the terrain before I let her in. Her smartwatch betrayed her like it had before. A calendar alert popped up during dinner. She lifted her wrist without thinking. MSP delivery, Thursday 4:30. I kept my eyes on the pan and asked about salt. Thursday came and I shadowed from 2 blocks back. She cut into the dealer's alley, slipped through the buzzard door at 4:33, and came out at 4:58 with a lighter gait and a tiny relieved smile that said chores were done and secrets were safe. She texted me a photo of a latte that didn't exist in our city and wrote, running late. I didn't answer. I rerouted to the vault and asked the attendant to note chain of custody weight changes on our joint box when we arrive tomorrow. We can log any delta against your ledger, he said. Sign here to request. I signed. On the bank side, the joint line freeze posted. The email pinged both of us. She texted, "Why did the card decline?" I replied, "Fraud monitoring flagged it. I'll clear it in person tomorrow." It wasn't untrue. Fraud is what we were dealing with, even if the system didn't know it yet. My transfer posted overnight. My metals sat where they should. Traceable, boring, solid. Her MSP-driven stash, whatever it looked like in the depository's belly, remained under her. Personal IRA's custodian only. I couldn't touch it. I didn't need to. Isolation is a kind of lock. I met with the banker early to rehearse politeness. "We'll keep the language neutral," he said, scanning my folder. "No commentary." "Please," I said. "I'm not here to perform." He glanced at the spousal waiver. "She'll sign this in 10 seconds. I nodded. "She signs anything that smells like HR." Before lunch, my lawyer received my nightly journals bundled by week. He replied with one line, "Preservation letter's ready when you say go." I didn't say go yet. I wanted her to sign in a room that records calm. I made one last call to our insurance agent and raised the umbrella liability coverage to an amount that would make even a bad day survivable. Not because I expected fireworks, but because rain falls when it's least convenient. Paper cuts bleed longer when you ignore them. At home, I cooked and said nothing. She floated through the kitchen on that citrus cloud that had become a tell. "Tomorrow's going to be cute," she said, kissing my neck. "Depository date." The dummy bar felt like a confession she hadn't made yet. Same heft, same glint, different soul. I wrapped it in a napkin to mute the clink. The trap wasn't the metal, it was her attention. She always reached for what sparkled. Morning arrived with polite weather. We walked into the bank like a couple doing adult things together. The banker greeted us with his neutral tie and pushed the folder across the table. "We'll start with standard consents," he said. She smiled and reached for the pen like it was lipstick. I let the forms walk her downhill. Signed here, initialed there, dated without pause. When the spousal waiver arrived under her hand, she barely looked at it. "For rollover efficiency," she read aloud, satisfied by the boredom. She signed. The notary stamped. The room exhaled. "Content audit?" the banker asked. "Please," I said. He nodded to the attendant. "Weights will be compared to your ledger." I set the velvet pouch on the table and watched her pupils dilate. Paper cuts had done their work. Now the blood would show. The near miss. She moves first. Her wrist lit up before dessert, the way it does when she forgets I'm watching. She flicked her eyes to the notification and away in one practiced motion. I caught the ghost of it. MSP delivery, Thursday, 4:30. She kept stirring the pan like the words were weather. I tasted the sauce, said it needed salt, and logged the time in my head. Thursday, I parked 2 blocks back, a nobody in a line of cars with expired meters. She cut into the alley at 4:27, buzzed through the metal door at 4:33, and reappeared at 4:58 without a bag, without anything you could photograph, lighter in her shoulders. The lightness made me angrier than the lie. She texted me a stock latte photo at 5:02, foam art. I recognized from a chain we don't have, captioned "running late." I watched that text arrive and chose not to respond. Some silences teach faster than words. I drove straight to the vault and asked the attendant to add a note to our file. "When we come tomorrow, record chain of custody weights, compare against our ledger, flag any delta." He handed me a form. I signed where process told me to sign, and he slid the carbon copy into an envelope with our names printed clean. Bureaucracy is slow, but it's faithful. It shows up when feelings don't. At home, she floated through with citrus and relief. "Traffic," she said, kissing my cheek. "Tomorrow's cute." I nodded and handed her a glass of water. I checked my transfer status on my phone in the pantry where the signal is worst and felt the small satisfaction of control. Posted. My metals had landed. My assets had already crossed to the side of the chessboard where only my piece could reach them. Her MSP route sat isolated on her side, all hers and nobody else's, exactly where a freeze could find it. That night, in bed, she curled close and spoke into my shoulder. "We're good?" she asked. She meant, "Did the latte convince you?" "We have an appointment," I said, and kissed her hair. She slept hard. I didn't. Morning came clear and ordinary. I arrived early to the depository to repeat the same instruction to a different attendant, redundant by design. "Please note any weight variances against our ledger," I said. He tapped the keyboard, nodded, and printed a fresh audit request with my signature line waiting. I signed again. The sound of the notary's embosser through the wall felt like a heartbeat. At the bank side, the joint credit line freeze hit the system. She texted me from a register, a clipped, "Our card just declined." I sent back, "Fraud monitoring flagged. I'll clear in person." She replied with a thumbs up and no suspicion because the story fit the kind of household hiccup we've had 100 times. The truth wrote alongside the cover. This was fraud, just not the kind the clerk cared about. The near miss arrived at 9:13 a.m. when my custodian called with the voice they use when they need you to verify your own name. "Routine reconciliation," he said. "We're reviewing transactions interacting with an entity called MSP. Can you confirm you initiated any?" My mouth went dry. "No," I said, steady. "I requested verification, not initiation." He thanked me, read a disclosure, and said any unusual activity may be restricted pending review. He didn't say the word freeze. He didn't have to. On our way to the vault, she hummed. Humming is her tell when the next move is already done. I kept my hands loose on the wheel and my face open. In the lobby, she reached for my arm. "I've been thinking," she said low. "After we do this, we should move some of my old stuff into a cleaner setup, fewer accounts." I smiled like she had invented consolidation. Love that. Inside the private room, I asked the attendant to log the contents audit before we opened the box. He glanced at the request slip I'd filed yesterday and generated a small smile that looked like respect for people who like rules. He weighed, he recorded, he compared to my ledger. "Matches?" he said. "My ledger, not hers." Her jaw tightened half a millimeter. Her bag clinked when she shifted in her chair. "Not loud. Enough." She glanced down like sound could be smoothed with a palm. I opened the velvet pouch and set the sealed bar on the table. Her eyes drank it. She didn't reach for the waiver. She had already signed. She didn't reach for my ledger. She had already allowed it to be right. She reached instinctively toward weight. I watched her realize the timeline had betrayed her. Whatever she'd moved yesterday sat wherever it sat. Her custodian's name on it, her signature under it, her depository slot holding it. My transfer had posted before hers could pretend to be ours. She had moved first and still arrived second. She smiled at me, trying to reassert narrative. "I love this," she said, meaning the bar, the ritual, the illusion that control was shared. I smiled back and slid the sealed bar an inch closer. "Good," I said. "Let's build on it." The public polite trap. We sat across from the banker in a room that breathed money and manners. I set the velvet pouch on the table like a centerpiece. He smiled the way professionals smile when they know they're part of someone else's ceremony. "We'll proceed in order," he said. "Consents, depository rules, contents audit." She nodded, eyes flicking between his tie and the gold under plastic, already choosing where to focus. I raised a small paper cup. "To our future," I said. She clinked it with a bright, performative grin, then reached for the pen without being asked. The spousal waiver slid into her hand disguised as oatmeal. "For the rollover efficiency," I said lightly. "Standard." She skimmed the bolded headers, found nothing exciting, and signed in a confident swoop. The notary stamped. The room stayed calm. The banker explained depository rules in a gentle drone. Access requires dual authentication. Contents cannot be pledged, encumbered, or removed without mutual consent per your filed agreement. Audits available on request. Serial logs on IRA-eligible items. Weights recorded when requested. She nodded at all the right beats, eyes drifting back to the sealed bar like it was telling her a sweeter story. Right, she murmured. Mutual consent. I slid our joint asset schedule across the table. House, cash, my rolled IRA holdings, the single bar serial, ledger totals. A tidy column labeled Joint Depository declared contents. She traced the numbers with her finger, then tapped the line with performative casualness. "Looks good," she said, as if she had read it, as if any omission were intentional teamwork. "Before we place the bar," I said, "let's run the contents audit." I looked to the banker. He gestured to the attendant. The attendant wheeled in a small scale and an older printer that still used perforated paper, the kind that makes people trust printouts. "We'll verify the current inventory against your ledger," he said. "You authorized bar-by-bar weights." He opened the box, gloved, efficient. The printer clicked and chirped. The scale hummed. Numbers arrived in that boring, lethal way numbers do. He read off a weight, then a serial, then glanced at my ledger. "Match," he said. Another weight, another serial, another match. It was my music. I let it play. She leaned in, chin held high, composed. A small muscle in her cheek timed its own metronome. When the attendant closed the box and tore the paper free, the banker clipped the audit to our packet. "Your ledger is clean," he said. I thanked him. She made a low sound that could pass as agreement, could pass as a swallow. "Now the deposit," the banker said, pleasant again. "We'll record the new item by serial and add weight to the ledger." He angled the forms toward me. I lifted the sealed, IR-eligible bar and set it in his waiting hands. He read the serial aloud. I repeated it. She repeated it too, quietly, like a charm. The bar hit the scale, the printer chattered. The numbers landed exactly where I knew they would. The attendant returned it to the box with care, then locked the door and noted the time. I placed the second bar, the Tungsten twin, on the table between us, letting it catch the ceiling light. A matched pair, I said, softer. One for the ledger, one for the reminder. She smiled in a way that belonged on holiday cards. I love symmetry. She reached, then paused. This one isn't recorded? She asked, not quite a question, more an invitation to collude. A token, I said, not an asset. Her eyes flashed with relief. Relief is a tell. The banker recapped the rules, his tone neutral. As a reminder, per your consent, any removal, substitution, or pledge of depository contents requires both present and recorded consent. Any discrepancies discovered during audit trigger an internal review. He looked at her, not me. Questions? She shook her head, breezy. All standard, she said. I watched the flicker behind her eyes when he said discrepancies. She kept her posture perfect, but the narrative shifted for her a fraction. She'd expected to steer. Instead, she was being steered by the furniture. The audit had matched my ledger, not hers. The box held exactly what my paper said it held. There was nowhere for her to slide a private story in. Before we wrap, I said, I'd like a printed copy of the chain of custody log for today's access. Timestamps, signatures. The banker nodded, snapped his fingers at the attendant's soft bell, and the printer woke for one more page. Time of entry, names, IDs, the moment the box was opened, the moment it closed. Boredom that could testify. She straightened, working to repolish the moment. You're thorough, she said, smiling at me as if we were still a brand. I'm lucky. I returned the smile, softer. We're careful, I said. It landed like a diagnosis. The attendant handed us our packet. Consents, audit, chain of custody, ledger updated. She placed her palm on the velvet pouch like it was a pet. Can I keep this? She asked, meaning the twin. I nodded. It's yours, I said. She slipped it into her bag with a satisfied exhale, a tiny clink answering from inside. She didn't hear it the way I did. We stood. The banker thanked us for our business. She thanked him for his patience. We were two people playing a scene we'd rehearsed for different audiences. In the hall, the air cooled. She leaned close. I'm proud of us, she whispered. I looked at the embossed seal through the packet and said, me too, because paper had done what love didn't. As the door closed behind us, her phone buzzed. She didn't check it. She was still smiling at the bar she thought she'd gained, not the future she'd just signed away. Confrontation, truth on paper. I didn't raise my voice. I raised a folder. The private room door latched. The banker excused himself for coffee, and I spread the pages like a map of a city she thought was hers. We're going to be clear, I said. No yelling, just paper. First, the rental. Printed confirmation from Oaks, my booking the week after hers, the host's message about repeat business, and a photo of the guest book page in my handwriting next to Great Wife F in a hand that looked a lot like hers. I set down the boutique wine charges, 2 receipts, 2 cards, same timestamp, same cashier ID. I placed the company policy page that says Conference Center isn't an M&I category. Then the lift intersections, copied in ink, same Thursdays, same alley behind the metals dealer with the buzzer. Next row, MSP Holdings. State registry printout with the P.O. box, the registered agent tied to the metals shop brochure. Her cloud backup's original file name, MSP Dealer Invoice OSET, captured by the system that forgets nothing. ERA deposit slip mailed by bank error, 5 figures at 3:04 a.m., memo line MSP. The custodian acknowledgement of my verification request, timestamped. The depository's chain of custody audit from today. Your ledger matches, I said, tapping the notary seal. Not yours, mine. She stared at the pile like it might rearrange itself into something flattering. You snooped, she said, voice very even. You went through my life. I used what you handed me, what the mailman misdelivered, and what public records publish, I said. No hacking, no passwords, just gravity. Her jaw tilted. We were unhappy, she said. You turned into a spreadsheet. I tried to build something safe. Metals aren't illegal. Affairs aren't illegal either, I said. They're relevant when you charge wine to corporate and route marital earnings into a personal IRA through a shell vendor that smells like your dealer. What you did is hideable, not harmless. She reached for indignation like a scarf. You have no right to judge what I do with my retirement. I slid a single page forward. Marital assets table, I said. Your salary and bonuses during the marriage are marital income. Routing them into metals through MSP doesn't make them separate. It makes them discoverable. I let the word sit. You funneled marital earnings into personal IRA metals with a fake vendor, she snapped. Quiet. Don't call it fake. Then call it what the registry does, a PO box tied to your dealer's agent, I said. The custodian is reviewing MSP-related activity. The banker reappeared at the threshold, saw the weather in the room, and set the coffee down without comment. If they see what I see, it freezes until answers arrive. I nodded to him. We'll need 5 minutes. He stepped out and pulled the door soft. I slid the divorce packet across. I'm filing, I said. I'm not emptying accounts. I'm not moving the goalposts. I'm not bleeding us out. Temporary support per statute. Discovery immediately. No access to the joint line because it's frozen. No charging my personal cards because you're no longer authorized. We'll divide on math, not narrative. She didn't touch the packet. She touched the velvet pouch. You brought me here to humiliate me, she said. On our anniversary. I brought you here because paper behaves, I said. I won't compete with your excuses. I want a record and a notary. You already signed the spousal waiver. The box moves nowhere without both of us. You're punishing me. I'm protecting me, I said. You can keep the token. I nudged the tungsten bar toward her. A reminder. It weighs the same, she blinked. That's cruel. It's symbolic, I said. A mirror. She glanced at the door, calculating angle and audience. We can fix this, she said, softer. A last reach for skin. We don't have to burn it down. You burned it in Thursdays, I said. This is a firebreak. Her phone lit. She tilted it under the table. A name flashed I didn't need to read. She stood halfway, sat again. I need to make a call, she said. Make it, I said, and slid the packet closer. But understand the order of operations. My lawyer sends preservation letters today, to your custodian, to the dealer, to your employer's HR. If corporate cards touched conference center at a boutique hotel, she flinched at HR like it was a slap. You'd ruin my career. I'm not sending a press release, I said. I'm sending a request to keep records from being shredded. Your choices invited your employer, not me. She put both hands flat on the table, steadying herself. You always wanted control, she said, a last pivot. Here it is. Control would have been us reading statements together, I said. This is a ledger telling the truth because you wouldn't. She reached for the pouch again. I let her lift it. The tungsten clinked in her bag with the small, guilty sound it always makes. She stood, gathered the packet mechanically, and looked at me for the version of me that used to joke our way out. I didn't offer it. At the door, she paused. You're crueler than I thought, she said. I'm calmer than you hoped, I said. She left to call him. The room shrank and widened at once. I took the notary copy, signed where my name needed to live, and slid my key onto the table. I didn't need to shake. The paper did it for me. Fallout. Lover, employer, custodian. She stepped into the hallway to call him, and the signal bars did what I needed. They carried her voice to a place with policies. We need to talk, she whispered. I didn't eavesdrop. I watched the banker slide our packet into a folder that said copies and thought about how quietly systems grind. I texted my lawyer one word, go. He replied, sent. Preservation letters left his office in 3 directions at once. The custodian received a plain request to retain all records related to MSP-linked transactions, account notes, approvals, communications with the dealer, delivery confirmations to the depository. The dealer got a letter asking for invoices, pickup logs, camera footage from the alley entrance, employee schedules, anything that touched her Thursdays. HR received a narrower note. Preserve expense reports, receipts, approvals, and card logs around conference center and the boutique hotel dates. No accusations, just timestamps and sunlight. She came back into the room smaller. He's busy, she said, sitting as if it helped. Busy is married man code. I didn't ask. By late afternoon, the custodian called my lawyer first, then me, voice careful. We've placed a temporary hold on MSP-related activity pending review, the rep said. Your verification request triggered internal controls. No transactions will be processed until reconciled. I thanked him. He read a disclosure about timelines. He didn't need to read the subtext. Her stash just went cold. She felt it before she knew it. Her phone buzzed. She looked down and flinched. Transaction pending review, she read aloud without meaning to. She swallowed. It's procedural, she said, performing for me. I let the air hold the line. HR moved faster than I expected. Corporate compliance doesn't like open loops. A polite email hit her inbox that evening. We've received a preservation request regarding potential misuse of company funds. Effective immediately. Please refrain from altering or deleting any expense-related records. Expect contact from our office to schedule a meeting. She turned her screen away like it would stop the pixels. Spam, she said lamely. I nodded. Phishing's everywhere. She didn't smile. The dealer blinked next. A manager called from a number that lives behind a buzzer. He spoke to my lawyer's paralegal, who took notes in a handwriting that could stab. We comply with custodial rules only, the manager said. Our retail customers are separate. Then he tripped on his own sentence. For IRA customers, we deliver to approved depositories and log serials. The paralegal said thank you like a camera flash and asked for the logs. He promised nothing and hung up. 2 hours later, his registered agent's office went to voicemail. MSP had turned back into a P.O. box. That night, her lover texted her something long enough to scroll. She read it twice and didn't answer. I was at the kitchen island, reading the notary seal like Braille. He's going to say you're overreacting, I said without looking up. She bristled. Don't talk about him. Then talk to HR, I said. She stood very still, then walked upstairs with a stiffness that looked like calculation failing. Morning brought a calendar invite she couldn't dodge. HR, legal, compliance. 30 minutes. Neutral subject line. Her direct reports manager, the lover, forwarded her a separate invite. Touch base. She replied 3 words. Not today. Within an hour, his LinkedIn flipped to on leave. Corporate euphemism wears a calm face. At the meeting, HR's tone was a metronome. We're reviewing expense categorizations tied to non-approved venues, they said. We'll need receipts, attendee lists, business purpose. She tried confidence. Client development. They clicked. Which client? Silence works like a solvent when you point it at fiction. She offered a name. They checked the CRM. On screen. The client was in Denver those nights. We'll follow up, HR said, and ended the call with a smile that doesn't mean kindness. My lawyer filed the petition noon sharp. Discovery requests rode shotgun. Statements from the custodian, depository audit records, dealer invoices tied to MSP, her corporate card logs. We didn't accuse her of crimes. We asked for numbers. Judges wake up faster for numbers. The custodian emailed an interim note to both of us. Due to a vendor reconciliation, transactions associated with MSP are under administrative review. Access to those assets is temporarily restricted. She read it on the couch and went very quiet. They can't do this, she said. They can and they did, I said. It's their duty. She sent 3 texts to the lover. 2 delivered. 1 did not. Hours later, a rumor slipped through a colleague's group chat we both used to share memes in. Internal probe, personal relationship with subordinates manager, expense anomalies. No names. Enough shape to match a silhouette. She muted the chat and stared at the TV that wasn't on. The dealer went dark for a day, then posted a sign in their window the internet loves, temporarily closed for inventory. The registered agent's site scrubbed a staff page overnight. The custodian pushed a policy update to their blog about vendor diligence for alternative assets, a paragraph that might as well have been titled Don't Be MSP. By week's end, she was on administrative leave pending investigation. He stepped back to avoid appearance of influence. The house was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator choose when to hum. She tried to break the silence with soft sentences. We can work this out. I set the packet between us again. Math first, I said. Feelings later. She held her bag tighter, the tungsten weight knocking quietly against everything she thought was hers. Division. Math. Not malice. The first hearing felt like a spreadsheet put on a tie. Our lawyers traded syllables. The judge asked for tables. I gave them what paper loves. A clean marital asset sheet. Retirement accounts, equity, vehicles, and the depository contents by serial and weight. No adjectives, columns, and dates. My documented transfers sat there like good children. Initiated before the petition, in kind, same account type to same account type, custodial confirmation stapled behind. The judge asked one question, traceable? My attorney said, yes, Your Honor, and slid the chain of custody logs across. The notary seals glinted like quiet applause. Her side tried a story first. He moved assets, her lawyer said, creating an imbalance. Mine answered with sequence. Pre-petition, within his sole accounts, notice provided, he said. No dissipation, no concealment. Every gram has a serial. The judge nodded like numbers were music from childhood. Then it was MSP's turn to take the stand without a mouth. Her counsel called the metals separate contributions. We called them marital earnings diverted. The court ordered an appraisal and a full accounting from the custodian and dealer. The custodian produced ledgers and paused hands. The dealer produced inventory logs like toothpicks. In the appraisal room, auditors handled bars like surgeons. Serial by serial, weight by weight, paperwork stacked. When they reached the unlogged twin in her bag, a token, not an asset, the technician frowned at the machine and ran it again, then again. Ultrasonic said what gravity couldn't. Tungsten heart. The report wrote it kinder, non-homogeneous interior. But the crater it punched in her credibility didn't care about tone. My lawyer didn't smile. He didn't have to. Penalties and taxes arrived the way rain does, quietly, thoroughly. Improper handling inside an IRA triggers consequences. If MSP wasn't a qualified dealer, if the metals didn't meet standards, if prohibited transactions brushed the edges, the code sharpened teeth. The custodian's review had already frozen activity. The court layered on. Any corrective distributions would land in her column, with taxes and penalties strapped to them like bricks. It wasn't vengeance, it was arithmetic. The judge spoke in the voice of policy. "We divide on evidence," she said, "not on grievance." The marital assets table became a floor plan. House equity split after subtracting the joint line, frozen by me, acknowledged by both. Vehicles awarded clean, mine to me, hers to her. Blue book values balancing the ledger. Retirement accounts divided by a straight percentage through direct transfer. IRA to IRA, Roth to Roth, decrees certified like passports. No QDRO for IRAs, just custodian forms that want names spelled right and signatures where they belong. Her MSP metal sat in a box labeled disputed. Origin contested, compliance questionable, custody under review. The court ordered them valued, but any taxes, penalties, or losses born from their improper structure would be borne by the account owner of record. That line found her, not me. She stared at the table like it was a hostile witness. Settlement talks took place in a room that smelled like copy toner. My lawyer pushed a proposal that looked like plain toast. I keep the primary residence and my rolled IRA positions as documented. She keeps her vehicle, her non-disputed IRA portion, and the burden of rectifying MSP-related issues with her custodian. Temporary support per statute for a defined period. Health insurance bridge with receipts. No spousal access to my revolving credit. Joint tax filings amended as needed with a forensic signature. Clean lines. No moral victories, just plumbing. Her lawyer asked for narrative concessions. He could acknowledge, he started. Mine cut gently. The ledger acknowledges. The judge favored the math. We all signed forms that would outlive our pride. In the hallway, she tried one last angle. "You're taking the house," she said, voice low. "I'm taking the mortgage," I said, "and the lawn in August, and the leaking gutter on the north side, and every bill with my name on it. You're taking the penalties." She flinched. "It wasn't supposed to go like this." "It went like the rules say," I said. When the order hit the docket, it read like a grocery list. Asset A to petitioner. Asset B to respondent. MSP-related assets subject to separate accounting. Taxes and penalties assigned to respondent. Vault contents per ledger and serial. Access requires mutual consent. No poetic lines, no admonitions. Just a stamped date and the judge's name. She tried to outpace the paper with a favor. The week after, she drove to the depository alone, a storm in a blazer, and argued at the counter like volume could unlock steel. Protocol didn't blink. No access without both present. No substitutions. Chain of custody won't bend for charm. She called me from the parking lot, breath quick. "Meet me," she said. "We can settle this without them." I looked at the order on my kitchen table. "We already did," I said. In the end, division wasn't revenge. It was a balance sheet telling us where gravity landed. I kept the house and the quiet that came with it. She kept the tungsten in her bag and the bill for the parts she'd tried to tuck in shadows. Math closed the book where love had scribbled in the margins. The vault returned. She arrived at the depository like weather, hair tied hard, blazer armored, heels making points on the tile. She didn't book me. She didn't need me, in her mind. She went straight to the counter and said her name the way people say it when they expect doors to open. Protocol smiled. "Access requires both parties present per your consent agreement," the attendant said, voice level. "We can schedule a joint appointment." "I'm here now," she said, sliding her ID forward like a sword. "He's not necessary." "He is," the attendant said, and tapped the screen. The clause glowed back at her in institutional font. Mutual consent required for access, removal, or substitution. She shifted tactics. "Then I need an audit. Today." "Happy to," he said, with both parties present. She leaned in, lowered her voice. "I'm reporting a discrepancy." He lowered his voice to match. Discrepancies trigger review. Reviews require both signatures or a court order. She called for a manager. The manager appeared with the calm of 1,000 prior storms. "We'll follow your governing documents," she said, gentle and immovable. "They're written to keep you safe from each other and yourselves." The lobby camera watched without blinking. She turned, scanned the room, and saw me where I'd chosen to stand. Off to the side, hands in pockets, not swooping in, not rescuing. I'd come because I knew she'd try this. She gestured, a sharp invitation. "You're enjoying this." "No," I said. "I'm observing." "Then consent," she hissed. "Let me fix what you broke." "I didn't break anything," I said. "I recorded it." A security guard wandered closer, performing casual. The manager suggested a private room. We didn't take it. She opted for theater. "Run the footage," she said to the counter. "Prove I haven't been here 30 times. We can show today," the attendant said. "Prior logs require a formal request." He keyed the camera. The screen popped a 4-panel view. Door, counter, corridor, elevator. The timestamp ticked. She watched herself enter angry. She watched herself argue. She watched me not move. The system didn't know us. It knew time. "Pull chain of custody for our box," I said. "Last 30 days. He printed it with the sigh of a dot matrix. The paper curled and tore along perforations. He clipped it to a board and turned it so we could both see. Entries. My name, her name, dates, times. Today's line read, "Attempted access, denied, single party present." The ink didn't care about tone. She reached for escalation and found a wall. "He's hiding assets." The manager kept her eyes kind. "Your ledger matched at last audit," she said. "Any variance requires both parties or a court. We're not arbiters, we're record keepers." She pivoted to me. "You replaced something." "I replaced nothing," I said. "You know what you swapped." "The system knows what it weighed. We can all stand here until that truth feels less personal." Her jaw flexed. She pulled the velvet pouch from her bag and set it on the counter like a threat. The clink inside betrayed her again. "Then weigh this," she said. "Prove me wrong." The manager shook her head. "We don't assay personal items in public areas." "Private room?" she said, pushing the pouch. "Even there, we only weigh depository contents." I kept my voice level. "Take it to a jeweler, ask for ultrasonic, or live with it." Her shoulders drive. For the first time, she looked tired, not angry. She ran a thumb along the pouch's edge like it might confess. "You're monstrous." "No," I said. "I'm finished." She tried one last angle. "You'll regret this. People don't do well alone." "I'm not alone," I said. "I'm just not with you." The manager, still kind, offered one more procedural branch. "If you both sign, we can schedule an immediate audit. If not, we're done here." She stared at the pen like it might bite. "You want me to sign away my rights?" "You already signed them into rules," I said. "That's what today is." She gathered her bag, shoved the pouch inside, and turned hard. At the door, she paused and looked back with the kind of calculation that checks every exit twice. The camera timestamp logged her leaving at 10:41. I stepped to the counter, set my key down, and slid it toward the attendant. "Close out my access," I said. "Per the order, no movement without both. I won't be back." "Understood," he said, and typed the note that made it real. She watched from the sidewalk through the glass as the attendant sealed the envelope with my key inside and labeled it with our case number. She saw me walk away without glancing back. The reflection in the door caught her face and the small, weighted shape in her bag knocking once against her ribs as if to remind her what it was. Then the door clicked shut behind both of us, and the vault kept doing what it does best, keeping. Aftermath and quiet wins. The order arrived in the mail like a quiet bell, stamped, dated, boring. I read it once in the kitchen, once on the porch, once in bed with the light off, the words floating because I already knew them by heart. Final. Effective. Assets assigned per schedule. The house kept breathing under my feet like it had been holding its breath. No criminal charges from me. I told my lawyer early, math, not malice. He nodded and stopped sharpening knives. HR concluded on their end. Policy violations, wrapped in corporate linen. He resigned. She was demoted and signed a repayment plan for the boutique receipts that looked small on paper and heavy on pride. The Slack jokes evaporated. People get very polite when investigations turn into policy memos. MSP disappeared the way shells do when someone kicks the beach. The dealer's sign stayed inventory for 2 weeks. Then the lease listing went up. The registered agent scrubbed their page, changed a phone number, vanished. The custodian posted a new diligence checklist that used words like vendor verification and serial reconciliation. A paragraph that could have been titled, "We saw it. It won't be this easy next time." I stopped sharing codes. No more joint accounts where the only joint thing is a mailing address. I separated the utilities, reset the router, and canceled streaming services we pretended were for both of us. New passwords lived in a notebook that's not on the coffee table. I added a monthly audit ritual to my calendar like a haircut. Review statements, match serials, reconcile ledgers, breathe. The house sounded different without her citrus. The refrigerator hum became a friend. I fixed the north gutter myself. I learned the lawn's patches that scorch first and the trick to the temperamental garage sensor. I swapped the sheets to ones I like and stopped folding towels her way. Small rebellions turned into a life. The velvet pouch stayed in the top drawer of my desk, empty. It made a faint whisper when I moved the drawer, a sound like a memory exhaling. I let it remind me. Verify, don't assume. Paper before feelings. Questions first, trust second. Not cynicism, procedure. Procedure is just love with a checklist. Friends asked if I'd date. I said I was dating silence. It liked the same shows I do and never charged wine to a corporate card. On Thursdays, the pianist still played in that lobby. I walked by once and listened from the sidewalk, not a punishment, a pulse check. It sounded like Thursdays, which is to say ordinary, which is to say fine. I sold nothing from the vault. The joint box sat still under the rules we wrote, sleeping behind a clause that had stopped being a weapon and started being a fence. We'll empty it someday with witnesses and a board clerk. Until then, it's a monument to two people who learned the hard way that consent means both. She texted me, once, a photo of mountains from a work trip that wasn't a lie. Doing okay, she wrote. I typed and erased 3 replies, then sent none. Not cruelty. Clarity. We had already said the truest things we were going to say, and they were printed by a dot matrix printer in a room that smelled like money. On the 1st of the month, I make coffee and open the folders. I read the lines that could testify and the notes I leave to myself in the margins. Fence line holds. No deltas. Sleep was good. It's not happiness as a commercial sells it. It's a ledger that balances and a spine that stops bracing for impact. I thought anger would be an aftertaste I couldn't scrub. It turned out to be sawdust. It settled. I swept. I built other things. The quiet wins weren't cinematic. They were clean dishes and unshared keys, and the kind of sleep that doesn't flinch at phones lighting up at 3:04 a.m. I kept one ritual. On our old anniversary, I lift the empty pouch, feel the nothing inside, and put it back. Weightless can feel like wealth. The pouch sits in my drawer, weightless and true, and I sleep without rehearsing arguments. If you want more stories where the gift is really the test, subscribe and watch the next one. Another marriage, another hidden account, and a sharper twist. Drop your take in the comments. Too cold or just fair?